is gone and hope is sure. Christ is mine forevermore.
This question, what are the greatest challenges for Korean American churches to meet the 1% goal that MTW has put forth to send out commissioned missionaries from within our churches?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's complicated because the Korean American church is complicated.
Yeah.
So there may be some here who are really excited about the 1%, but maybe you're in an EM-KM context. And so you can have influence over the EM, but maybe you don't, because the KM leadership has to, kind of validate that and okay it. So that could be a challenge. It's really the dynamic of leadership, and is leadership on board, is leadership behind really pursuing this vision. I will say that we do have material translated into Korean now, so if that is something that could be of help, that may help alleviate that challenge. But I also think there are a lot of contexts where people are at where you're just trying to survive. And it was mentioned earlier that I think these are great meetings for us to gather because we are able to kind of step out of our local context, where once you, in the local context, it's like, it's everything. Your whole life is involved, and sometimes you can get kind of caught into tunnel vision of just what's right there in front of me. But come into a place like this, or even hearing about something like the 1%, you're able to step back and say, oh, there are opportunities for us to be engaged at a much broader level. And so the challenge would really be, in terms of leadership, to have kind of that broader perspective and get out of survival mode and seek to have a greater influence. The last thing I'll say, the 1% is really an initiative of faith. God's got to raise him up. God's got to go before you. And so, and if you're in survival mode, or if you're in a context where it's really hard, giving your best, well, what does that take? That takes faith. Right? So, but here's the thing, like, can you outgive God? Do you honestly think that by giving for this task, that God will somehow say, okay, well, I'm not going to bless you. I'm not going to increase and add to what... And then don't you think that this whole idea of this self-sacrifice, you really get very little benefit locally, that somehow that won't excite the people who you're ministering to see that? All the skepticism in churches today about institutional church only serving itself, don't you think that would be changing the narrative? We exist to see the gospel fill the whole world, right? I'd like to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, just some things to think about. Leadership is important. Getting out of the survival mode, and faith. Really wrestling with those are the challenges, I would say.
Rejoice now, oh my soul, for his love is